Hello and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video today. I am a travel blogger and a content creator on Instagram. Today's video, I'm going to be comparing photos from my new iPhone 13 Pro, which I am very, very excited about. I'm going to be comparing it with my Canon EOS RP as well, which is what is filming me right now. Look at that cinematic mode, very nice. Which is what I love taking all of my travel content on, but I thought I'd mix it up and see whether I can go away. So I'm going on a trip in a couple of weeks' time and I wanted to explore before I go whether I can leave my Canon at home and I can just go with my iPhone 13 Pro, or whether I'm going to have to take the Canon as well. I'm also going to be doing some comparisons to photos on my old iPhone 7 Plus. The day I picked up my phone a couple of days ago, I went around a few places in London to take some shots to be able to compare. However, just to let you know, they're not completely direct comparisons because my Canon has a 35mm lens on. Just FYI with the Canon, I literally did it on automatic mode. Didn't do any special settings, and I put all of the same edits onto the photos so that we can see. I do take all of my photos in portrait as opposed to landscape because I think that Instagram has literally conditioned me to do that because they look so much better in portrait on Instagram, but that's a complete personal preference because I know that quite a lot of you probably prefer landscape photos. But I do have to say, shooting on a 35mm Canon, I know that I can change the lenses, but I haven't, and I always just keep my 35mm on because I think it's a good all-round lens. However, I can't zoom, it's a non-zoom lens. That is definitely a pro from my phone, is that I have got the ability to zoom. I don't know how much I will use the zoom because obviously the further you go in, the worse the quality it gets, but it is there if I need it. So the first one is of the beautiful River Thames. Pretty sure the quality of both of them is very similar. So here are another couple, as you can see, quite similar, but I have to say the Canon is just softer, but the colour and the quality, I'm really impressed with both of them. So if we're having a look at the HUD, I'm very impressed with the iPhone here. That looks beautiful. I'm really, really enjoying these tones. Now, also on the iPhone 13 Pro, there is the wide-angle lens, which I've never been able to enjoy coming from the iPhone 7 Plus. But if I'm wanting to get it a lot more into the picture, this is going to be absolutely fantastic. And by the looks of it, the quality isn't even compromised. Another example of the wide-angle lens here, and yeah, just giving even more into that scene, which is great. There's like a cityscape. This is really going to be great for my travel photography. Another great thing about the iPhone Pro is that you can choose to shoot in RAW. So that just gives more information into the picture. So when you're editing, you can get more of that information back. So I've shot these in RAW. So I'll move on to the portrait mode now. I have to say, this is one of the most exciting points of the iPhone 13 Pro. Coming from the 7 Plus, the 7 Plus's portrait mode is rubbish. I've just taken today a few photos of my cat, so I'll enter them here. As you can see, the quality is fuzzy and also it crops it. It zooms in a lot when you use the portrait mode. When I originally got the 7 Plus, I was so excited for this. Started using it and realised that actually it's not that practical because it ruins the quality of the picture. So to come from that to the iPhone 13 Pro has literally been the most exciting thing for me. The fact that it doesn't zoom, it literally is the same position as being on the normal camera, which is fantastic. Just quickly talking about macro mode. The macro mode on the new iPhone Pro camera is incredible. It is very, very exciting and I do it for fun, but that doesn't really help particularly for travel photography, which is what I'm talking about today. I have to say the photo of Will, I think, is incredible. You can tell the difference, like within his hair, but I think that portrait mode, I'm very happy with that. And I'm also extremely happy that I was able to use the portrait mode from further away and it doesn't crop it. I'm so happy about that because I can actually now get the bokeh effect in a shot where my whole body can be in and the background. And for me, that is the photography that I like to do the most. Also, what I love about the iPhone 13 Pro is that I can choose the F number, the F stop. You can actually adjust the amount of background blur or bokeh in your photos, which I think is incredible. So I'm going to be using portrait mode a lot. So as you can see in this one of me on the bridge, that it is pretty similar to my Canon shots. The only thing is where my hair meets the bush, it doesn't accept that, which is a shame, but I can actually go in on post-production and blur that in. But I'm really happy with that kind of photo. I really like it. So this one of Will is not shot in portrait mode, but it's obviously close up, and there is a natural bokeh anyway that isn't in portrait mode, but you can see that the background is a lot more blurred than him. So the fact that it does do that and it picks up on that without me even telling it to do portrait mode, I really like that as well. But in comparison, the Canon blurs out the background a lot more shadows, more detail, but I'm very happy with that one. So the next portrait mode, we can see that is lovely. The hair is just a slight issue that the Canon does a lot better than the iPhone. So that is the one thing that I would pick up from that. But everything else seems to look really good. The one of Will in portrait mode I think is fantastic. The colours are great. You can see more detail in the hair from the Canon, but the iPhone 13 Pro does it amazingly too. I really like the pictures of these birds. And then the leaves, the iPhone doesn't do as great a job at blurring out the background as the Canon. Let's move on to some photos where we're not in portrait mode but are figures. So it doesn't blur it out particularly much there, as you can see from when I'm sitting on the bench. Another thing about the Canon is that if you're giving it to someone to take a photo of you and they don't really know what they're doing, so you can see that I'm actually slightly blurred and then the background is the thing in focus. If I was taking it, I could just easily sort that. People don't necessarily know what to do, so the iPhone is a lot more automatic and easy to use. So the iPhone photo here is actually much better. It also picks up the colours a lot better as well because I didn't mess with any of the exposure settings on the camera. So from an automatic click and shoot, the 13 Pro has come out so much better than the Canon. The sheep photos here, the Canon one looks lovely. It's very rich in colour. Isn't that sheep very cool? I love his coat, just curls. I had quite an animal day shooting, it was great. The picture of the goose walking over the bridge, as that was just shot in a normal function on the iPhone, there's no bokeh, whereas the Canon here blurs the background out. So I do think that the Canon looks higher quality here. Going back to the log cabin with me there, this is the same case for that. The Canon blurs out the background more than the iPhone. The iPhone doesn't really do that at all. However, both of the colours are beautiful, the Canon being slightly richer, but I am still very happy with that iPhone photo. I would be more happy if there was a bit of a bokeh, but we didn't use portrait mode then, and it's still a nice photo. One of Will next to the log cabin. There isn't that much difference in this. Obviously there's different in light, but I could have amended that in post-production. So I am actually really happy with both of those on the Canon and the iPhone. So I'm really impressed with the iPhone so far. Trees here, that photo is beautiful. I think both photos are actually really beautiful there. There's this photo here where you can see the fairy lights, and the iPhone has naturally blurred out the foreground so that we can just see the geese, and that is quite a similar photo apart from the actual angle. Look at the flower portrait. Both of those photos are actually really similar with these flowers here. The colours are quite similar, and the way that the background is completely blurred out, both of them have done it very similar, which I'm really happy about. So I also took some photos of the sun, which any camera is quite difficult to actually get right. The sun in between the trees here, the sun is a lot brighter on the 13 Pro, and the Canon kind of dulls out the sun. So I actually prefer the 13 Pro's photo here. It's picked up really well with the light and the shadows and hasn't overexposed anything. Over the fence, there's a lovely shine in both of the photos actually. I think both of them pick that up really well. You can't see the exact sun, but you can see the glimmer of light. This one here, because the iPhone really does keep that brightness of the sun, and the Canon can kind of dull it if it needs to, I think that I do prefer the Canon one here, because Will just looks very washed out against the sun from the iPhone. But in the Canon, all the details from him are being kept pretty well. Okay, so I think that's it for all of the Canon and 13 Pro photos. I'm just going to show you now photos from my 7 Plus versus the 13 Pro. So this one of Will here, you can see that there is a lot more detail, so much happier with the Pro 13 here. The one of the log cabin, actually I really like on the 7. I do think that the trees do look better on the 13, but the 7 hasn't done too bad there. The one on the river from the 7 has a lot more detail, and we've kept the colours in the 13 Pro. And the one of the ducks or the birds walking along the path, here the quality of the 7 really isn't there. There's a lot more detail captured in the 13 Pro than the 7 Plus. And the last one I'm going to be talking about is this photo here of the sun. The 7 Plus has just completely lost all colour. It's completely washed out because it's so overwhelmed by the sun, whereas the 13 Pro has, it's kept a lot more colour in, even though they've been edited in the exact same way. So I'm very happy there with the 13 Pro. So to conclude, the Canon will always be my absolute favourite for the quality, the bokeh, the detail, the richness. I really, really love my Canon so much. But from a practicality point of view, and the fact that they are completely different systems, the iPhone Pro has done so well, considering it's not a DSLR camera. It has done incredible to mimic that, and I find it really exciting what this camera can actually do. The fact that I can change the level of bokeh after taking the photo is amazing. The fact that it does a natural bokeh as well, I don't even have to put it in portrait mode, I find that really, really cool. And the wide angle lens I'm going to be using a lot as well. The flexibility that it gives is just amazing. I can take really wide angle shots, but then also home in on details as well. I once read a quote that said, the best camera is the one that you have got with you. So for the convenience and the practicality of the iPhone 13 Pro, the one that we always have in our hands or in our handbags anyway, it got to a point where that camera that I always did have on me, iPhone 7 Plus, and that really wasn't the quality that I was happy with. So with the incredible convenience that the iPhone 13 Pro will give me, I have concluded that I will just be taking my iPhone 13 Pro for photos and my DJI camera for videos away with me on my next adventure. If you do want to see how it went and what photos I managed to capture whilst being abroad, then do check back in a couple of weeks. I will be documenting my next adventure on my Instagram, so do go and check that out at Girl Going Global. I will be vlogging, and I will also be vlogging the trip mainly on my DJI and my new phone. But to ensure that you don't miss them, please do subscribe and turn the notification bell on. And my next video next week will be from mine and Will's trip to Mallorca that we did in the summer. I hope you enjoyed the video, but I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye guys.